Welcome to the Deconstructing Data podcast and live stream. I'm Jessie Lezak, CMO at BDEX, along with BDEX's founder and CEO, David Finkelstein. Happy 2026, David. Happy to be back.
Thanks, Jessie. Yeah. Happy New Year. Good to be back on our first podcast of 2026. Hope you and everybody that's listening had a great holiday season, and looking forward to jumping right in it.
Absolutely, and hope the same for you. Excited to be back doing another episode. Let's see, I think, is this episode 182? We're getting closer and closer to 200 episodes.
Yeah.
So we'll hit that this year. But today on Deconstructing Data, we're thrilled to welcome on Tom Firth. He's the co-founder of Cotera. Welcome to the show, Tom.
Hey, everybody. Happy New Year to you too. And 182 episodes. That's amazing. You've done a lot.
Yeah, we've been doing this a while, every week for a few years now. So, but we're excited to have you on the show this week for us, and would love for you to kick it off for us and give our viewers and listeners a little bit of background about you and what led you to co-found Cotera.
Yeah, hey everyone. So my name's Tom. I'm an English guy based in New York. I moved here a couple of years ago to start this company with my co-founder who's based in New York. Cotera basically helps businesses automate all of their work using AI and critically their own data. We'll talk a bit more about this later on, but a big part of what we think is missing in AI is basically context. People have all this data locked up in their various systems, and the thing you kind of need to really unlock AI for a business is to give them access to all of that. And so we specialize basically in helping companies do that. In terms of what led me to do the business in the first place, I mean, it's a few things. I think it's very personal that partly I just love this space. I love working with data and I love building software, and I like working with AI these days too. That actually came after we started the business. And there's always the personal side of it too, which is just that I always had that itch, like you have that itch. I didn't like being someone else's employee. I wanted to do my own thing, and eventually I just had to do it. So here I am.
Yeah, that's great. And I love your opener, but I would have worded it a little differently, just like Sting did, Englishman in New York. I don't know if you recall that song. If you know that song.
Actually, I do that song, yeah, but I'm afraid I'm not an avid Sting listener, so I wasn't talking about it. That would have been better. You're right. Sorry.
No problem. I'm excited to jump into this. Look, we talk about AI a lot, obviously on this podcast, because AI is data is core to AI, and this is a podcast about data. So let's jump in and I'd love to hear your take on using AI agents from, basically in a way that makes dashboards go away, right? And I'd love to kind of dig into that, because dashboards were a big thing for a long time, but now it's like with AI, you can do so many more things with data. Your data can actually take action for you. So let's dig into this. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting this, and it's not as if dashboards are not useful. There are for sure lots of places where dashboards are useful, but I think in a way, what was the point of data in the first place? The point of data was basically for companies to try and make more repeatable, higher quality decisions. And what was the point of making decisions? The point of decisions was basically to do stuff. So all along, I think the journey of data, way back to kind of the 80s, 90s, when you had these first big data warehouse systems come online. Companies like Walmart and so on pioneered it in the old days, and some of the banks and so on too. They were just trying to automate their work. They were trying to get stuff done with higher leverage at bigger scale, using their data to do it in a repeatable way. And that's always been the holy grail. I don't think that's changed. It's just that most data is actually really hard to act on. Most data is locked up in documents and emails and messages and all that kind of thing. And what's really interesting about AI is that it makes that kind of data tractable for the first time ever, basically, unless you had a sort of specialized in-house NLP team. You are able to take the majority of your data, all of your customer interactions, which, as I said, it's generally conversation type data, and you're able to feed it into these models to do everything from extract information, to summarize it, to search it, to ultimately take action on it using kind of like these AI tools. And that's what I think is interesting about it. It's not that dashboards as a whole are obsolete. It's that most dashboards were always a proxy for us trying to do action more efficiently, and now you can just get straight to the action. So why go through the dashboard half the time?
Yeah, no, it's a great point. I mean, dashboard used to be something that, you log into, you look at, you study, you get an idea of what's going on in your business, whether it be in customer support or finance or whatever it is. And it's somebody's job to look at this dashboard and make some decision, right? Based on what they see. But to your point, we can now use AI agents to make those decisions, because we can set those parameters and say, okay, let's look at the data instead of looking at the dashboard, and make the decision based on that data.
That's exactly. Yeah. And I think it's all a question of degree. Like, there are certain high level decisions that you're going to want to make yourself as a business owner or an exec or whatever it is. I'm not going to feed my revenue chart to AI and say, hey, like, tell me where I should take my business next. That's not really going to do much. But a lot of dashboards actually look a lot more like, here's a list of 20 tickets that potentially had issues in them, and the resolution, and because they haven't been resolved in quick enough, they're past some sort of threshold on resolution time. Prioritize them, and some support agent should go and, like, one by one look through these tickets and make sure that they're addressed. That's actually something that AI can do really well. It's this much more sort of like tactical, fine-grained stuff. And then it kind of frees up all this space for the strategic stuff, basically, for humans. Yeah,
I think that's one of the things that I'm always looking for AI to do for me and my team, is just create efficiencies. How can we do what we're doing, but do it better? And can AI help us improve our response time to finding solutions, finding issues, and resolving those issues, things like that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it definitely can. It definitely can, in my view, but it does take, like, work, unfortunately. It doesn't sort of it doesn't come for free. And I think that's actually been one of the interesting things about the AI space of the last year. I think it was arguably oversold initially, and it was sort of painted by some folks, e.g. Sam Altman, Dario, folks like that, who had to go and raise a lot of money, I think, as a sort of cure-all. And in reality, like, it's an amazing tool, but you still have to do this work in your business to set up your data, essentially, to set everything up to enable all of that. So it does take work. It does take steering. It does take shepherding. It's not a magic bullet, but used right, it absolutely can just give you huge leverage, especially in these, I think, support, go-to-market, these kinds of roles, operation-heavy roles in general, and software actually as well. Like, writing software, it's been amazing.
Absolutely. Even I've played around with writing software with it. A little
It's shocking how easy it's become. Like, literally anybody can just spin something up, and I think it's amazing. It's really good, that.
Literally anyone. And that goes right into our next two topics. You talked about how, data isn't ready for AI right away, which is our third topic. What does it take to prepare your data for AI? But before we get to that, we're talking about breaking down data silos, because many businesses still have all these data sets in different places, and unifying one customer identity. Could you kick us off on that topic?
Yeah, this is a really interesting one, and it is definitely related to the kind of getting your data ready thing. The silo problem specifically, I think this has always been a problem for data. Like, before AI came along, I remember back in like 2020 or so, there have been 3 or 4 kind of big data kind of pushes in the venture capital world, and the last one was in 2020. And the conversation topic back then was surprisingly similar for how do we get our business ready to do big data, quote unquote, to the questions you've now got for how do we get our business ready to, like, do AI. And the silo was a big part of that. The silo, for those who aren't familiar with the idea, although I think a lot of people are, is just you have conceptual things like a given customer, and you want to basically put together all the data about that customer in one place so that you can reason about it and make decisions off of it and analyze it. But it lives in loads of places, silos, we call them. And before you can do that, you've got to do this really kind of like bitty, boring task of putting all of that together into one place. And the old-fashioned way of doing that is basically just to sit there by hand, and we'll have a team generally, like, go and kind of figure out where it all is, and then write all these, like, migration scripts and everything to, like, move it into into one spot and then do all the data modeling so the data models line up. And it's like surprisingly difficult work, and it's also not particularly exciting work. You kind of don't, you still have to do it in a way. Like there's honestly no getting around it to a degree. I do think AI can actually help somewhat. A model that we've had surprising success with is if you just give AI, especially with the very recent models of the last kind of 6 months or so, if you give AI relatively raw access to the individual data sources and you just say like, hey, I've got this customer, their email is like joe@blogs.com. Can you go and piece together the records about him across these 4 systems? Maybe one is Salesforce, one is your data warehouse, another one is your product analytics product or whatever it is. And you can get surprisingly far with that too. But it's definitely not as good as having it actually all consolidated in one place. I wish I could offer a sort of magic bullet there, but that is actually a lot of work. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I agree. I've seen a lot of companies deal with that same problem. And it's a problem you need to really solve first before you can, truly integrate all your systems together. You really need to sort of go through that task. It is a painstaking task.
It is.
Of multiple integrations in order to sort of consolidate the data all into one place. And then you got to worry about things like, when and how is the data being updated, and is it syncing properly and things like that? Because then you don't want to have sync problems or issues where you're overwriting data and things like that. So there's a lot of like checks and balances that have to go into place there as well.
There's a lot that can go wrong, and I think state of the art is still really what it was 10 years ago. It's so much just about kind of the kind of culture around how you look after that stuff. I think like companies have to take data pretty seriously to do it really well, and they have to give basically budget and time to. It doesn't need to be a big team. It's actually generally fairly possible for quite a small team to like look after this stuff, but they need the sort of like license to do it and to stay on top of it. AI tools can actually help them indirectly, like helping them write the transformation scripts and so on is like quicker than it used to be. But yeah, I think there's no getting around that. The closest thing to a magic bullet I've found with it is being very kind of like project or outcome oriented, perhaps like picking a very specific, hey, we've got this like one use case or this one question we want to answer about customers. Can we cut the scope down to like getting just the data we need for that one question from all these sources pulled together, and kind of delivering that end to end? And then you end up with like something valuable. It's less work overall. It's motivating because you ship something, you prove value to like, other people in the organization, so they're more willing for you to go and do the next one. The failure mode is generally to kind of try and do this like gigantic, let's do all of the data all in one go, and then 18 months later you're still like fighting and there's no value. That's like a bad place to be.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, and that's something we've discussed here before, like being very goal oriented, right?
Yeah.
Like what's your initial goal? Don't try to do everything at once. Pick one goal and find the data that you need to achieve that goal, and start there.
Yeah, I agree. That is the way to do it.
I liked your idea of just, letting AI help you in that task of removing your data silos. Like David said, it's super painful. How else have you seen, like, I don't know, with the rise of AI, data silos sort of being broken down any differently with AI? I mean, I've heard, all sorts of things that like people aren't going to have a CRM in 2026 because they'll just all use AI to pull all of it. Have you heard any other, either of you, interesting ways people are breaking down their data silos?
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, the 2 broad categories that I think I see working in practice are either using AI to help you do that kind of like more traditional data work, like getting everything into one place, which I think can genuinely speed you up. Or for these kind of like ad hoc things, you give it access to tools that can access your CRM, your database, etc. And then it can generally do a pretty good job of piecing things together ad hoc like that. It's less repeatable, and it's not kind of as broad in scope, I guess. But that definitely works. I've seen that work really well. In terms of like, actually getting rid of the need for because I think I see the point there. Like if you got rid of your CRM, that's one silo eliminated, right? Like no silos if you don't have any data anywhere. Like you still need to have the data somewhere. Like the CRM for most companies is really just a database that non-technical folks can manipulate. It's a database with the UI on top of it where you can choose how to lay things out. And I don't think I buy that AI gets rid of the need for that. I think you've got to put the data somewhere. AI can't store data itself. It has to rely on some other system to retain information. You can only really fit a tiny amount of information at one time into a model, and so they need some external source to like store the rest of it and work on top of. And whether that's a CRM or whether it's a database is it's almost besides the point in my mind. It's got to be somewhere, and typically for most businesses it happens to already be split across lots of places, and so yeah, you're going to start there. Then that makes sense.
It's interesting, actually, Jesse, from what you said about the idea of replacing your CRM with an AI. Like, isn't that kind of what Bordy does? Like, Bordy is like, is in itself a CRM, right? And it has conversations with people, and then it retains all that information from those conversations and somehow stores it somewhere, and then uses that information to figure out, the sort of the.
It's a really nice example, actually. Yeah, it's like a radically different UI to a CRM. It's arguably still a CRM, I'd say, but it's a very, very different UI to Salesforce.
Right. It's like a verbal interface to Salesforce, that kind of thing.
It's really cool, yeah.
So they don't need their Salesforce dashboard anymore or whatever CRM they're using. They just go to their AI and say, which lead should I follow up with right now, and what should I say to them?
Yeah. No, I see what you mean, Dwayne. So I totally buy that. I really do buy that, and I do see companies doing that kind of thing effectively. Maybe I was being pedantic because the AI is basically using the CRM. Then in my mind, like the ARM's got a CRM behind the scenes, and it's using it to like organize everything. But yeah, you don't have to think about it. And I guess that kind of does. I guess that counts.
Yeah.
So like thinking of data silos, I'm like, could everything just be plugged into the AI? Do we really need it? Maybe that's the umbrella,
Yeah, maybe we got to talk to Andrew over at Bordy and tell him
you should.
He's missing an opportunity here. He can
plug
Bordy
it into
the CRM system.
That idea of plugging everything into Bordy or something like that, that's what I was getting at, I think, before when I talked about trying to connect to like an AI to multiple sources via tools. That's exactly the kind of model I'm getting at. And you give your AI access to Salesforce, and you give it access to the data warehouse, and then the end user of it just has a chat interface or something like that. And the AI can go and decide like, oh, to help this user, I need to query Salesforce, and I need to query the database, and it aggregates that for you and serves it to you. And it's a really useful model. It definitely has limitations compared to actually consolidating your data, I think, but it's a really interesting approach.
Yeah, I would love to be able to do that and integrate it with QuickBooks too, so I can make sure that the clients, payments are on time and all that stuff too. So. And
also the QuickBooks UI has got to be one of the worst UIs in the world. It's terrible.
I know, and it's sort of crazy because for the longest time they never updated it, and it was terrible.
And they changed it.
And then they changed it, and it's terrible.
Yeah, no, I know. They made it like they didn't fix anything. They just changed it for no reason.
Yeah. They finally decided it needed an update, but it wasn't an update. It was just a change.
Yeah. No, I
didn't
don't
make
understand.
it any better.
Yeah. I'm still a customer, I guess. They're doing something right, but I feel it's not because I like it.
Yeah, we're all customers because we're kind of stuck with it, not because we like it so much.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm also a customer, so there's three. I mean, but yeah, how do we integrate that with our AI so they can all talk to each other? Although I was listening to another show with CFOs and accountants, and they were saying, don't use AI for your finance because it does make simple math errors. And they were just showing us some examples. And it was just blown. It's like, those are the things you think AI could do well. But
it's really bad at them. It's so bad at them.
Yeah. So be careful there. But anyway, the next topic, unless anyone else has something to add on data silos, because, that's important. And I don't know, the idea of universal ID kind of, I don't know, makes me interested in like, how do we bring those data silos together? Because it's always hard to like map the identity. But
yeah, on the identity side, the only thing I'd say to that is that first you sort of have to develop a key, right? You have to decide what is the identity key that you're going to use internally. Is it an email or, something else? And so that if you don't have sort of that one identity to key in on across all of the different data sources, then it's going to be difficult to match up the data,
Exactly, yeah. And even if you're using that Bordy-esque approach of, like you've plugged your your chat interface into 3 systems, even if you've done that, if you haven't got a single key to query on, then it's surprising what AIs can do to like figure it out. Like Claude will go and run 3 or 4 experimental queries and like come up with ideas, and it might be like, oh, maybe it's this one or maybe it's that one, but it's very slow, it's very wasteful, it spends a lot of tokens doing that, and it's just less reliable. If you've got the key, then it just gets it straight away, and that's the kind of reliability you want, I think.
Yeah, definitely. So let's move on to, what does it take to prepare your data for AI? What do you think, Tom? Could you kick us off on this topic?
I feel like we've talked about a fair bit of some we've talked about some of this stuff already. I think there's a few interesting nuances. So I talked before about on the silo topic about how that hasn't really changed pre and post AI, and I think some things about getting data ready have changed post AI, and so that's kind of worth addressing here. The biggest difference between getting data ready for like dashboarding or metrics or analytics in that sense and getting it ready for AI is, I think, A, the type of data you are collecting and getting ready, and B, what you've got to do to get that data ready to use. The type of data, we touched on this briefly earlier, it's very text heavy generally. You don't want to feed loads of numbers into AI. You can, but like it's not that good at it, and like just SQL queries and stuff like that are better at it anyway. But the text data that previously was more or less a black box is now kind of just fair game, and you want to like put a lot of effort into getting your customer conversations, Slack messages, survey results, like emails, like everything you've got in the big bucket of PDFs that everyone's got lying around. Like there are so many random documents that every business has got lying around, and you want to find a way to get all of those organized and exposed to an AI system. And then the hard bit is the kind of like feature extraction on top of it. You don't need to do that much feature extraction in some ways because the AI can just like figure stuff out as it goes. But you need to do some feature extraction to make the data more searchable. So like the most obvious one, to tie it back into that, like silo thing, is that let's say I've got 400,000 PDFs like sitting in a bucket in my cloud somewhere. I know that they're from customers, but which customers? Like I need to tie it into that customer ID. And so a really valuable thing to do is to like go and figure out for all these invoices I've got, or PDFs I've got, which one ties to which customer ID, so that my AI can then find the right one. And once it finds the right one, it can just read the PDF and do whatever you've asked of it. So I think getting the data ready looks a lot like that. It's kind of just like piecing together the text information, extracting that information that's required to join it all together. Is a big part of it, and it's less these days about like cleaning that kind of data to get it ready, like you used to do with more traditional numbers-based data. There's a bit of that. Like email data does tend to be really noisy and just have loads of like random links and stuff in it. And if you can strip out stuff like that, then it is good. But yeah, a lot of text data, I guess, is the summary.
Yeah, I think one of the key things that you said there also is organizing the data. Because AI has a habit of just wanting to please you, and it'll try to find an answer for you, even if it finds it from someplace weird, right? Mm-hmm. And so like organizing the data and defining what type of data you're feeding it, so that you can be very specific in your prompts when you're asking for information. You can ask it to get the information from a specific place. Because otherwise, if you're just asking it for an answer, it's going to try to please you. And so it's going to try to find an answer. wherever it can, and it might not be from the right document that you're looking for that answer from. So the organization becomes really important there.
It so is. This is going to sound like a bit of a tangent, but I promise it's not. I once upon a time, I think for a sin I committed in a prior life, I spent 2 years as an auditor after I was a ski instructor that I told you about. And one of the jobs you've got to do in audit is like basically tie numbers that people claim like back into source documents. And I remember as a sort of like very junior auditor, a handful of times being shown into a room full of supporting evidence, like receipts and invoices and that kind of stuff. And being given a list of like 50 items I've got to find to like, tick off like, oh yeah, the invoice they said like did indeed exist. Like I've tied it to the original, there it is. And some companies, that invoice room is very organized and it's really easy. It's alphabetical or whatever it is, and you go and look it up and in 2 minutes you find it. And I've been to some companies also where they literally have just cardboard boxes full of like random bits of paper. And those take ages. You might be there for days just leafing through every bit of paper trying to find the right one, and it's you just miss it half the time. But then as a junior auditor, you at some point you're going to give up and go back to your manager and be like, couldn't find it, or like, I think this is right, or whatever it is. And AI, you have to treat it surprising. It's not a human. I don't like anthropomorphizing it per se, but you have to think about it in a fairly similar way. Like it reasons through the process in a pretty similar way to what a human would do. And it's exactly that. It's exactly your point. Like if you've given it the cardboard box, like it's not gonna find anything. But if you give it like the well-indexed like booklet, then it's gonna get right there.
Yeah, I like that example. I always call AI like your newest employee. Treat it like it's an employee that has no idea about what you're doing, how you run your business, or what how to do the job. You have to give it extremely specific, detailed instructions in order to get the outcome that you want. Otherwise, it's going to make some assumptions. Yeah,
100%. It's like surprising how unintuitive that is. I think people have a lot of shared context, especially if they've been working together for a while. And I think very few people appreciate and realize just how much they rely on that shared context. The fact that I can turn to a colleague and say like, oh, did you remember the thing? And they know what I mean by the thing because we talked about it earlier. But if you tell an AI like, hey, what about that thing? It's just like, what do I do here? You're right. It has this bad habit. Instead of saying I don't know, it likes to please, and it just makes something up sometimes. And that's the worst case.
Yeah. Gonna tell it to tell me what I don't want to know.
Yeah,
exactly. Right.
Yeah, exactly. Well, this is a really great topic. Anything else on what it takes to prepare your data for AI, David? What would you say?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think that for me, like, I think we covered the most important thing. For me, it's organization of the data. That's the one thing that I have found that has been sort of the things that I've seen where it's the biggest breakdowns and sometimes the biggest challenges too. Especially the larger the company, the more data, the more different types of data. Like you have to be really organized in how you're defining that data. Otherwise you'll just get some crazy answers, especially if you're feeding this data into AI. You can't give it the opportunity to make assumptions.
And
it will.
Totally. Yeah, it is hard. It's not a solved problem. I think like I use AI quite a lot in like for building software as well. And one thing I've been reflecting on recently is just how much easier it is to get AI to work well on software than it is for more general business problems. In software, like all the context you need is just there in the code base, and it's really the AI can just search the code that it's got right there in front of it, and it can make progress based on that. And you don't need this big step to organize the data up front. It's just already there, organized for you. And I'm not quite sure. I think like most businesses are quite a bit behind in the sort of operational sense of using AI versus where they are in the coding sense. I think for this main reason, like it's just so much work to organize the data and get it ready. And the models just are good, but they're not that good unless you've given them the right context. So
I think that's the exact reason why it's really good at coding, because coding is very organized. You can't. There's not a lot of things to assume. Like there's specific structures, and there's specific guidelines, and how to follow those guidelines and those structures. you don't need to define a lot. It's already defined in
Oh,
the
for
code,
sure. Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So whereas when you're dealing with sort of, let's call it unstructured data, you know, you have to go through and you have to create a structure and you have to define and organize it in order for it to be able to handle it in the same way.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Yeah, it turns out software's simple. Everyone, we spent the last 20 years being like, oh, wow, software, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Turns out very, very easy.
Yeah. Yeah. It seemed like software seemed to, for many years, to be like one of the most complex things and hardest things. And you know, and now when you really look at it, when you look at it from the point of view of AI, it's simple because it's organized and structured, you know?
Mm-hmm. And neither of you think it's easy on AI because software engineers created AI?
I do. So I think that is a part of it. Like they do, it's where they found the most, certainly for like Anthropic, for example, they found a lot of traction. A lot of their revenue comes from these software use cases. And so they do put a lot of effort into training Claude to be really good at solving software problems. And so it has become better, quicker at software problems than it has at other problems. I don't know if that's the case for ChatGPT though. Like I think ChatGPT is like really good at legal stuff, for example. That's like the main thing I use that one for. It's not bad at writing code, but I don't use it for writing code as much because I find Claude to be better. And I think their incentive is a bit different. The vast majority of their user base is actually free users just asking random like questions about their life. And I think they're putting the effort into making the model kind of like a good friend almost. And that sounds really weird, but like I've got a couple of friends that work there and there's a lot of effort going into like that. Like how do we get essentially like kids or like people who are like lonely one day like to come back and like chat to ChatGPT again, which is honestly kind of like scary, but
That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a new world.
Yeah.
Man, there's so much tech out there, and we need to get to tech stack, and we're going to do that right after this brief message from writer.ai.
Hey there. I'm Alora Weaver, the host of Writer's podcast, Humans of AI. We take you behind the algorithms and into the real stories of leaders building AI responsibly, from leading AI scientists to healthcare physicians preserving the human touch to retail innovators personalizing at scale. If you're navigating this rapidly changing world of agentic AI, this is a chance to hear how others are doing it too. Find Humans of AI presented by Writer wherever you listen to podcasts.
Awesome. Thanks to our friends at Writer. But let's hear your favorite tools in your tech stack. This is something we've asked all, I guess, 181. You are the 182nd Deconstructing Data. What comes to mind for you, Tom?
Yeah, I asked you to clarify this earlier because we all use so many of these software tools, and I've got a few nerdy ones because I think I am just a nerd at heart. And the two that I use the most by far, actually the three that I use the most by far. There's a product called Raycast, which is sort of the Spotlight on your Mac, the thing that lets you search your files. It kind of replaces that, but it adds all these like little superpowers in to execute like shortcuts across your Mac and like all sorts of stuff like that. I use that a lot, probably hundreds of times a day. I live in my terminal. I'm a big kind of like terminal guy, and so I use Ghosty, which is a great bit of software written by a guy called Mitchell Hashimoto, who was the founder of HashiCorp, and he exited from that when it IPO'd and decided to spend his billions building a terminal for nerds, and it's awesome. And then Claude Code I use honestly probably like 8 hours a day at the moment, and that lives inside Ghosty with the terminal thingy that I mentioned. So I use those a lot as well. On the kind of less nerdy side, I love Assio as my CRM. Apparently, my CRM is going to go away. Actually, I've just learned that today. But I am loving Assio for now. It's really, really good. I enjoy that a lot. I like Linear. I'm a big fan of PostHog for product analytics. Linear is like issue tracking, like Jira, basically. Slack, I guess, is indispensable. I don't know if I love that, but I do use it a lot. We all live in Slack. I think so many businesses just pretty much run on Slack these days, and we're one of them for sure. I don't know. Is that a good list? I could probably reel off a few more, but I'd say those are some of the big ones for me.
Yeah, no, that's a great list.
My list, Things 3. I hope there's a Things 4 soon, but that Mac app Things 3 is. I could not survive without that thing. It's got about 10 years of just every to-do I've ever like created and ticked off, and all those ones from 8 years ago that I haven't got around to yet still in there. So yeah, I need that as well.
Cool. Yeah, there's some new ones in there for me. I'm a Mac user too, and I've never heard of Raycast, so I'm going to take a look at that.
Check out Raycast. Yeah, I love it. It's a very kind of keyboard-driven workflow. Like most workflows on your Mac, you can like command space to summon Raycast, and then you sort of just type stuff to find files or to like search for stuff or to search the web, and it can be really, really efficient when you get the hang of it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah.
And hopefully our listeners learn some new tools as well.
No
Yeah.
affiliation, but maybe I'll ask them for a link now. So
Yeah, find it, just drop it in the comments. We love to hear all these different tools. But in closing, Tom, would you also like to let the listeners know how they could find you after the show?
Yeah, sure thing. I mean, LinkedIn is like one of the best ways. I'm on there a lot. My profile is TD Firth, I think it is. I mean, I think you'll see the link in this session. But yeah, otherwise, feel free to head to our landing page. You can sign up if you want to try a product out there, or you can find me on Twitter as well, or X, I should say. Also, TD Firth is my handle there. I think those are the easiest ways. So yeah, feel free to reach out.
Awesome, Tom. This has been a great conversation. We really appreciate you joining us today on the show. And I'll let Jesse close it out for us then.
Yeah, and that will do. We have a couple clips here, but it's been a great episode. So thanks a lot, Tom. Deconstructing Data is the show that makes data make sense. Every Thursday, David Finkelstein and myself, Jesse Lezak, sit down with industry experts to unpack how data really drives marketing. We do this in plain language anyone can understand. If you want real insights, real conversations, and zero jargon, tune into So audience members, we want to invite you to get powered by BDEX. Build authentic connections with your audience and drive unprecedented engagement. So just imagine harnessing the power of AI to craft your audiences that truly resonate with your brand, ensuring that your marketing is hitting the mark every time. We want to bring you closer to those marketing goals, and we're eager to guide you. So just visit bdex.com. You can click on the Talk to an Expert button and get powered by BDEX. Yo, 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 yo.